Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war ein Befehl!
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today's going to be a bit of a more humorous look at what I refer to as the flying monkey circus. So one of the things I always loved as a young man, and I always envied the artists that could do it, was the satirical editorial pages. In the city that I grew up in, we had an editorial page that always had a satirical look, a lighter side look at what was going on in the world. And recently I've run into a really great website. I'm going to include it in the description below and give them credit for who they are. I lay no claim to their work. They're far better than I am. And a couple of snapshots from around the world. But I guess the topic of today is that, Donald, you've single-handedly managed to unify the world against you and your administration for all of your stupid acts. Let's start out with 75 million American voters. Yeah, that's how many of us lost. And yeah, we're not real happy about it, but guess what? That's life, you know. I mean, you win some, you lose some, but, you know, we're not trying to riot at the Capitol building. We're not trying to tear down walls. We lost. We're sucking it up. We're going to figure out how to get back up there on top. The country of Canada, the country where I spent a lot of my youth in a fishing camp just outside of Westport, Canada. Shout out to the people of Westport. If I get any answers back from you, I'd love to hear from you. I had coworkers that were in the St. John Bay area, and they were nothing but kind and polite, and they were nothing but laid back and relaxed. I can remember being in business meetings where it was halfway through the business meeting, and it was an important meeting, and Jonathan, his nickname was Dutch, would pop into the conversation and say, folks, I've got a hard stop right now. My kids have got to be at hockey. And everybody would say, okay, yeah, go. That was how laid back they were. Family affairs, family life, and the kids' hockey took precedence over major business decisions. Laid back kind of people, and my people that I remember from Westport were the same way. Now, the country of Mexico, they've got their own problems down there with what's on their southern border. You don't hear them crying to us about it. But I've spent a little bit of time, not much. I've been to Mexico 2 or 3 times in my life. The last time I was there was to visit the Mayan ruins, and really wonderful. But, you know, they're a laid-back kind of people, too. They're kind of a slow temper, even burn type, and you've managed to piss them off, too. Now, let's talk about your buddy, Chi. Now, this was the guy that you railed up that was your buddy during your last administration. And you pulled your same bullshit tariffs with him that you did with Mexico and Canada. And what did he say? Yep, thank you, sir. May I have another? By the way, here's 15% to you. And I haven't heard you say anything back to him since then. It's just been left there. You raised it 10%, so he bumped it up to 15%. See your 10 and raise your 5. Yeah, let's talk about Denmark. Sovereign little country who's minded their own business for a long time. Wasn't on anyone's radar scope except for maybe mine a while back, because I discovered that they were one of the original founding members of the NATO organization. They were one of our original partners. Yeah, they helped us during World War II and at the end of World War II to stem the communist stretch. And then their little sovereign piece of property called Greenland. Yeah, you've managed to really piss those people off. So, along with pissing them off, we have 2 joint military bases up there. And if you're not careful, Donald, you're not going to be allowed to go there anymore. You're not welcome in a lot of places. And yeah, you're being a convicted felon, you may not be allowed to go there to begin with. Let's talk about Panama. You have done more single-handedly by yourself to push Panama towards China and to improve their economic position with them, possibly pushing them into the BRICS monetary system, than any other president in the history of the United States. Yep, you've managed to unite that little country to hate us unilaterally. You're doing a good job. Let's talk about Puerto Rico. You've insulted them, you've degraded them, you've denigrated them, and you've even offered to sell them or trade them for another sovereign country that you haven't got any right to, and you have no right to try and sell Puerto Rico. Did you think you owned it? Are you that pompous? Anyways, let's talk about your buddy, the royal sheikh over there in Saudi Arabia. He's recently popped out on you and said, yeah, you're not going to do that, Donald. And what was he talking about? Oh, yeah. Your idea to occupy the Gaza Strip with the U.S. military. Wow. That's ignorant is what it is. But even the Saudis, the ones who never really speak out about anything, the ones that keep their mouths shut, walk around in their little white robes and own half the world, have said, do you know that's not going to happen? And what were they talking about? You wanted to move people out of the Gaza Strip. 2.3 million people. You said that you could ship them off to Egypt. They're on the list of hating too. You said you could ship them off to Jordan. You were just going to move them to other countries. Well, the Saudi Arabian government, the government of Egypt, and the government of Jordan have all said no to you. You've got no place to put these people. What were you planning on doing with them, and what are you going to do? That's right. You wanted to build a Trump Plaza resort. Great weather, beautiful winds, great sand and beaches. It's been the center of the longest-lasting war based on Christianity than I can possibly remember, dating back to days after Jesus was born. And you think you can build a resort there. Note, Jared's $2 billion isn't going to help you get that. No, that $2 billion might buy a lot, but, that was pocket change for the Saudis when they gave it to you. So you can't give it back to them and impress them. Now, let's talk about what's going on inside your own country. You've managed to alienate 12 different groups of people against you from outside the country or from the left-leaning party. Let's talk about your fight with the judicial system inside the United States. 33 lawsuits. Dear God, son, 15 days. That's an average of more than 2 a day. I don't know, what you think is going to happen, but let me think. You were 0 for 62 on the last set of lawsuits. I don't see you getting any better. Right now, you have 4 temporary restraining orders against you. They all have to do with constitutional rights. One judge has so much as said, and I believe he was from Washington, that it was the most flagrant violation of constitutional rights he had ever seen in his entire career. Yeah, he'd been out there 20 or 20 plus years. You topped that one too. Donald, you really got to start reading and thinking. You have one national injunction which just came out late last night or early this morning. A national injunction stopping you everywhere inside the United States about the birthright 14th Amendment. You are at a screeching halt. If I remember right, and I know I do, the last 2 to 3 times that the United States Supreme Court has had the 14th Amendment brought up to them regarding citizenship, they have sided with the Constitution the way it's written. I'll try and remember what that case is, and I'll put a note down here for everybody to see. But the case that solidified it back in the early 1900s when a young Chinese man born here in the United States went to his parents' home country to visit his relatives, and on the way back in was detained. Yeah. The Supreme Court then said, no, you got to let him in. He was born here. He's an American citizen. It's precedence. It's actually super precedence. So unless your little ally there in Judge Thomas or Judge Alito decides to really show their true colors and risk impeachment, I don't think you're going anywhere with it. Then you've got the FBI and the DOJ having a war in public for the whole world to see and all of the United States to see. And oh yeah, your boy over at the DOJ just backed up and withdrew and changed his statements about what he wants from the FBI. He wants to get the people that were in charge of the investigation for the January 6th insurrection. And he wants all that data because he just needs to know that, but we all know where that's going. Kash Patel, you're lying while you're in Congress. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Kash. You can quote me on that. The FBI is not going to turn over the documents that the DOJ is demanding so that Number 47 can weaponize the DOJ. And let's get over to what's going on with Elon Boy. Yeah, I hear that there's a lawsuit coming out, or may already have been filed against Elon. He may be a special employee of the government, according to Donald, but the U.S. Treasury database and the U.S. aid database don't belong to him or his 5 little cohorts. None of them have U.S. Secret Service or security clearances. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you to everybody that came to listen today. I just wanted to stay on the lighter side. I just wanted to have the comedy of the B-rolls and the satirical humor and the editorialized humor with the cartoons for everybody to enjoy. With that, folks, I'm going to wish you a wonderful evening and say thank you for being here. Good night.